take to the streets, protest, show up at town halls.
It's gloves off right now. That was Democratic Governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, at a recent speech that he gave. I want to highlight Democrats punching back right now and just showing that they're angry. They're mad as hell. They're telling people it's time for mass activism, and they're not mincing words. I even want to show you Al Gore just gave an incredibly impassioned speech. We haven't heard much from Al Gore in terms of just publicly ripping Trump to shreds recently. This was incredible. Take a listen to this portion of the speech that we clipped. Let's play it.
We've already seen, by the way, how populist authoritarian leaders have used migrants as scapegoats and have fanned the fires of xenophobia to fuel their own rise to power. And power seeking is what this is all about. Our Constitution, written by our founders, is intended to protect us against a threat identical to Donald Trump, someone who seeks power at all costs to get more power. I understand very well why it is wrong to compare Adolf Hitler's Third Reich to any other movement. It was uniquely evil, full stop. I get it. But there are important lessons from the history of that emergent evil, and here is one that I regard as essential. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, a small group of philosophers who had escaped Hitler's murderous regime returned to Germany and performed a kind of moral autopsy on the Third Reich. The most famous of the so-called Frankfurt School of philosophers was a man named Jürgen Habermas, best known, I would say, but it was Habermas's mentor, Theodor Adorno, who wrote that the first step in that nation's descent into hell was, and I quote, the conversion of all questions of truth into questions of power. He described how the Nazis, and I quote again, attacked the very heart of the distinction between true and false. End quote. The Trump administration is insisting on trying to create their own preferred version of reality. They say Ukraine attacked Russia instead of the other way around, and expect us to believe it. At home, they attack heroes who have defended our nation in war and against cyber attacks as traitors.
And of course, we have Democratic Senator from Georgia, Jon Ossoff. Here's what he's got to say. Let's play this clip.
The president has really backed himself into a corner, Lawrence. This whole thing has been so slapdash, so chaotic, so poorly conceived, without any clear objectives. And business investment is frozen. Consumer sentiment has been tanking. Investors in the United States and around the world are withdrawing investments, not just from American stocks, but also from Treasury bills. And in fact, it's been very worrying action in Treasury markets that I think has really spooked the White House. The president's economic team is at war with itself and leaking against him and each other. And I think the only people who are happy about this are the congressional Republicans and the Mar-a-Lago club members, who I can imagine are doing pretty well on stock tips and getting advance notice. I would not be surprised about some of these announcements.
Now, I did a whole video highlighting Governor Walz's State of the State address, one of the best State of the State addresses I've seen in a while. He wasn't holding back. This was one of my favorite portions from that speech that he just delivered this week. Play this clip.
Now, in this land of the free and home of the brave, we have university students being swept up, shoved into unmarked vans, and fathers being tossed into Salvadorian gulags without a hint of due process. So I want to be real clear about this. If you say you love freedom, but you don't believe freedom is for everybody, then the thing you love isn't freedom, it's privilege.
Now, going back to Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker from this week, here he talks about how farmers and veterans in his state who voted Trump are pissed, are livid, are turning against Trump because Trump is destroying their lives. Play this clip.
Here, I talked about agriculture just a minute ago, but I want to focus on veterans just for a second. Let's face it, many of the people in the rural areas of my state, veterans and farmers, voted for Donald Trump, who gave us Elon Musk. And many of those people are now showing up. They were at the Medicaid forum that I held to say, wait a minute, you're taking away my health care. What's happening? The Republican Congressman Darren LaHood, didn't show. He was invited to be there, and he didn't show. And that's what's happening. The Republicans are hiding their heads. They want Elon Musk and Donald Trump to do the dirty work for them when they know that this is the job that Congress is supposed to do. But Republicans don't want anybody to know that they're the ones doing it. They'd like to leave it to the unelected, the wealthiest person in the entire world. That's Elon Musk.
There's another clip right here from J.B. Pritzker at the recent event that he spoke at. Watch what he had to say. Powerful stuff right here. Let's play it.
Most right now is, so what can I do? What can I do? And I'm going to be blunt about this. Never before in my life have I called for mass activism, but this is the moment. Take to the streets, protest, show up at town halls. Jam the phone lines in Congress, 202-224-3121, and afford not a moment of peace to any elected representatives who are aiding and abetting Musk and Trump's illegal power grab. This is not a drill, folks. This is the real thing.
So yesterday I had the opportunity to interview Governor Gavin Newsom of my state of California. The point he makes here, I think, is an important one, and I want to hear Democrats talking more about this, that blue states like California are donor states. They're giving to the federal government. Texas and these red states, by and large, are taker states. They run their states into the ground. They are taking from the federal government, not contributing. And then they're trying to act like, oh, we're doing so good here when you're actually not. That narrative is BS. Governor Newsom cuts through the crap. Watch this incredible portion from the interview we did together. Let's play this clip. Governor, California just passed Japan as the fourth largest economy in the world, which of course sounds like a big deal. You posted about it. Why is this just an important thing for us to all, recognize, more broadly, geopolitically?
Well, it's a point of pride. I mean, it's a big blue state with $4.1 trillion a year economic output. We're 14% of the GDP in the United States of America, 50% more than the next big state. But I also want people to understand that this is a donor state. In 2023, Californians contributed $83.1 billion more than we received from the federal government. And by the way, for your viewers, they may be interested in this. That state, Texas, took $71.1 billion more than they provided the federal government. California, $83 billion, contributor, taker, Texas. And I say that to make a broader point. 71% of the economic output in the United States of America, blue counties, blue metros, blue states with lower deaths of despair rates, higher wages, more productivity, greater growth, lower death rates as it relates to murder. It is a mythology that somehow red states are dominating and blue states are struggling. It's factually untrue. And I think today, as it relates to the illumination from the International Monetary Fund that did the analysis that we highlighted, is just a proof point of states like California, big blue states all across this country that continue to be the tentpole of the U.S. economy.
Now, of course, I got to give a shout out to Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, a Democrat governor in a ruby red state. And when I interviewed him before too, he was like, look, I believe strongly in uplifting people, and the state that I govern appreciates it. Here's Andy Beshear at the recent Semaphore World Economy Summit. And he's like, of course we should be doing universal pre-K. What are we talking about here? Here, play this clip.
But taking politics out of something is so important. Somehow pre-K has become political in Kentucky. You know, we have 50% of our kids that show up not ready for kindergarten. We can afford universal pre-K, but it's somehow become this back and forth red and blue battle in Kentucky. Maybe it's that I'm for it, because I am. Every child deserves that good start.
You have Governor Healey of Massachusetts talking about how Trump's tariffs just don't make any sense. Play this clip.
As a governor who cut taxes, as a governor who's working every day to lower costs, including by building more housing, I've said, Mr. President, this makes no sense. Our lumber for housing comes from Canada. Gypsum and other materials come from Mexico. You have just made housing more expensive for us to build in this country. That's in the wrong direction. That's about making things more expensive for people in our country. And it's not delivering on what I thought was the fundamental promise of the Trump campaign, which was we're going to lower costs and make life cheaper for everybody.
Here's another clip from Governor Healey. I think she's a superstar governor. Play this clip.
I was in a hospital here just the other week, and this is a hospital, Boston Children's, where some of the sickest kids in the country go for care. And there have been cuts to Boston Children's and other hospitals as a result of Donald Trump's actions, because these are part of a teaching hospital system. These cuts to universities have significant ripple effects because they result in people being laid off, scientists being laid off, doctors being laid off, clinical trials for things like cancer treatments have been shut down. And this is really bad. It's bad for patients. It's bad for science. And it's really bad for American competitiveness.
Of course, our friend Governor Shapiro made this video about the disastrous impact on tariffs in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But he also, I think this video is really smart in that it just highlights the various component parts in the supply chain that Donald Trump is just destroying. Let's play this clip.
I want to talk a little bit about how these tariffs are going to impact you. Because when people think about tariffs, they think about international economic policy. They're not thinking about local craft brews, but they probably should, right? Tell me what goes into literally getting this beer in this can and how the tariffs are going to impact you.
You've got to get beer into some kind of package. Consumer to, whether it's a glass, a can, a keg. Cans have been a huge expense for years now, since COVID.
You're paying about 22, 23 cents.
Yeah, it's correct, for a can. Now, that, adding on additional cost to that somebody's got to pay for that. Whether we eat that as a company or we pass some of that on is a big debate, because there's, the consumer has a lot of choices, especially in the beer industry and everything else. There's a lot out there. To pay extra for beer, maybe not in their future.
Right. When they got to deal with kids' costs, other things.
They've got everything, so we've got to be super price sensitive, and you don't want to, take away something, whether it's you cut down on some quality to make a lesser product, then you have no consumers coming back. We want to make great beer, give them a great product.
One more clip here of Governor Healey talking about something really important. And that's as Donald Trump guts and destroys our universities, China is actively recruiting students and investing massively in education. Play this clip.
The ones benefiting from Donald Trump's misguided attacks on our universities and on research are benefiting China. China is recruiting right now on our campuses all those scientists and faculty members and students who've been laid off or had their offers rescinded and say, come to China, we'll build you that lab, we'll give you staff. So for a president who is about America first, he's making America last, he's making us weaker, he's making us less competitive. Patients will suffer. They're already suffering, Mika, because we've had clinical trials shut down as a result of his dismantling of NIH funding, and that's compounded now by his effort to attack universities, and compounded by the attacks on our foreign students, right? He's scaring, for a guy who wants to reshore American talent, right? I mean, he is driving everyone, including American students and faculty members, out of this country because they want to be able to do their research somewhere. So this is a very dangerous situation, totally destabilizing, and it's really pointing America in the wrong direction.
Now, Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill, not the governor of New Jersey yet, but I think she'd make a great governor of New Jersey. Here is Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill. She was also a former Navy helicopter pilot. And here she talks, she's looking at Pete Hegseth here, and she goes, "Hegseth, man up and resign. Man up and resign, Hegseth." Here, play this clip right here.
When you're a plebe at the Naval Academy, you learn the 5 basic responses, one of which is no excuse, sir. This sense that you have to take responsibility for your actions. And what we see here again and again and again is Pete Hegseth trying to avoid any sense of accountability, but he should be fired. So he needs to man up and actually resign right now because he can no longer protect our national security.
And folks, we've been showing you the recent polling Trump. It is a dumpster fire, a Trump dumpster fire. The recent Ipsos Reuters poll has his approval at 37%. The Pew Research poll has him at 40%. The Fox News, I put news in quotes, poll has him at 44%, the lowest in Fox history for 100 days of modern presidents. At this time, former President Biden's approval was about 54%. Trump in his first term was 45%. This is supposed to be the honeymoon phase, and America wants an immediate divorce from Donald Trump already. Also, when you look to our neighbors in the north who Donald Trump attacks, with annexation, with conquest, 51st state rhetoric, the despicable, vile rhetoric from Donald Trump. Canada's standing up. Canada's gone elbows up. Canada's gone over the boards. A record turnout there in the early vote that they have over there. Their elections are coming up. It's a few days away is the election. Early vote seen record turnout, and you've seen a complete flip there where a few months ago, everyone expected the Conservative Party to win. Now everybody expects the Liberal Party to win, led by Prime Minister Carney, since Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, went full Maple MAGA. You don't go full Maple MAGA. He was working with Trump and Danielle Smith, the premier of Alberta, try to interfere with the elections there, going on all the right-wing podcasts like Jordan Peterson, talking about woke this, woke that. You know, it's so fascinating because Canada's getting the do-over election that we want here in America. Canada got to see where all of these ridiculous MAGA ideas take you. And they were like, do we want Maple MAGA? Nah, let's go with a banker like Prime Minister Carney, who knows what he's doing, versus bankrupters like Trump, or in the case of Maple MAGA over there, Pierre Poilievre, who I'm going to get a security clearance over there. Anyway, hit subscribe. Shout out to all the Dems fighting. Let's get to 5 million subscribers.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.